Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy back with my Get Creepy and Halloween make for December 2024, a long distance web. So I brought in some Stonehenge Aqua Cold Press black watercolor paper for this one, and I was not disappointed with the end result. It really is some great watercolor paper. So I wanted black because I wanted to make it dark, deep, and jewel tone. And so I figured if I started with black, it would save me some time in the long run, and that's why I went with black. But I brought in the spider web stamp set, or stamp from the Sweet Spider stamp set from Fawn, and I'm going to treat my watercolor paper here. Now this is it's smooth watercolor paper, so I know you can get like the textured stuff, and this one's definitely more flat. I will say that it kind of absorbed the white embossing ink, not to the point that it didn't work as an emboss resist, but it definitely absorbed it more, and there was some color variation. Maybe I could have done a second layer of embossing powder over the top. Ultimately, it worked out fine as is, and the end result was what I wanted. So now I'm just taking that same web and I'm kind of moving it around to kind of, move. I wanted some in the background, so I'm going to bring in some clear embossing powder for these. I wanted the one in the center to be white, kind of to show that it was like right here, and then I wanted the ones that were going to be further back to just have that clear embossing, just to kind of add some interest, make my design pattern paper just kind of, break it up a little bit. I didn't want it all to just be colors, I guess. You'll see what I mean in a little bit. But so ultimately, I just kind of continued the process. I tried to keep it, I think, to about 2 webs with embossing powder on it before I heat set. Any more than that, and I worry about it not sticking long enough, because if your ink dries too much, granted with VersaMark Ink, you're going to get a longer dry time. But, I didn't want my powder to fall off and my webs to be blotchy. I hope that makes sense. Anyways, so I heat set the last one and put that one away. And then I'm going to bring in my splat box. Yes, I found it. Actually, I had to empty it, and I brought it back because I've been getting splattered everywhere on my desk. So my splat box is back. It's a dish basin from the Dollar Tree. Yeah, not too high tech. Okay, I'm bringing in some mica spray stains from the Distress line. Anything that's got a jewel, like a mica in it and some pigment color will work for this. I ended up going with these because I have them, but maybe I would guess that the Distress Oxides would have worked really well with this, and then just adding a mica pigment over, or a mica over the top would have, yielded a very similar result. Probably chalkier and a little bit brighter. But that's, ultimately what, if you don't have these, you can definitely find some other options in your stash. The other thing I thought about bringing in was my iridescent watercolors, which would have worked the same way. I thought about bringing in my, I think they're not mica pearl or the pearl powders. They're like the jacquard ones. So anything that has that, I just decided I needed more water. So I was like, it's not moving like I wanted it to move. So I just soaked it down with water and let it sit. It took a very long time to dry. So I kind of cleaned up my surface, cleaned off the tips of my spray bottles here. It really didn't take a lot of spray to get it to go and to move. So if you're not getting the look you want, if it's just blotchy and it's just not moving right, don't be afraid to add more water. I added some more water and it just kind of bloomed and went. And so I thought I had it good enough when I started. I sprayed my panel down with a couple of spritzes of water. I sprayed it with and it really didn't move. It kind of stayed in that splattery look. And even with kind of like drying it, I was hoping it was going to move a little bit more. It didn't. adding some water, I think really just kind of like moved it all, blew it up, and I was really happy with the end result. So I do end up, I think, coming in. So there's a couple of spots that were maybe like, they're not quite as sparkly and bright as I wanted them. So I did bring in some of the Artist Loft iridescent acrylic medium, and then of course another spray of the purple. And then I just kind of brought in with a brush and kind of added that. So this has a definite higher sparkle concentration than the mica spray stains do. It's got a bigger chunk of like a glittery effect to it. So I just kind of added that in here and there to kind of pop a couple of different areas, give it a little bit more interest. And you know, I love sparkle, so I was playing with sparkle. It was all good. So I was trying not to make too much mud. I mean, ultimately, you got some purple, you got some green, you got some yellow in there, so you're going to get a little bit of mud where they meet, and it really didn't matter a whole lot. So I'm cleaning that off. I tried to use like that little blow dryer thing to speed it along. It was really wet. So I set that one off to the side, brought in my stamps that I was going to use, and figured I would work on the next step in the process while my background continued to dry. It probably took about a good half hour, 45 minutes for it to dry fairly well. Almost, I would say almost an hour. So do the background and come back later. It's probably your best bet. So I did grab a couple of the spiders from that stamp set, and then the little web string from it. So I might also be trying to get this one shoehorned into my craft roulette make for the week. And so Belle was the element. And so I Googled Belle, and telephone came up as Belle, you know, Belle telephone. And I was like, oh, that would be kind of cute to do the two spiders and like the telephone. You know what I mean? Like if you were a kid and you had the tin can or the little cup, plastic cup, and you ran the string from it, and then you played like telephone with it with your cousins like I did, or your sibling, and you know, so that's kind of where this was inspired. Definitely talking about those 80s growing up, but it was fun, right? So that was kind of where I went, and we played illustration game the day before. My sister brought that, like, you start with a word and then you go to draw it, and then the next person has to guess, and then the next person has to draw what that person guessed, and then you get your book back after it goes all the way around the table, and you see how bad you are at guessing what your oldest child draws. Sorry, bud. Yeah. He needed more detail. I struggled a little bit. It was fun, though. We got there. Usually. Sometimes. Buffalo wing turned into Red Bull, and Red Bull with wings. I don't remember what that one turned into, but it was not any. And it was not where I started. Anyways, back to my project. I kept the coloring fairly simple. Went with a dark purple, a lighter purple. I think I brought in the third tone of purple just because I wanted it to get a little bit lighter. If you saw the on screen there. And then of course I brought in I did one color blends for most of it. So I did yellow, that kind of went with my yellow, and then I went with the green. So, you know, I used my Ohuhu Honolulu ones, so they're the B, so they have brush and the nib. So I had all of my items that I needed. So yes, I'm using the little candy corn as the telephone. I know, right? Now, I didn't want my things to be totally like stark white on top of my black, dark, moody background, right? So, of course, I brought in a black alcohol marker and went around all of the white with the black alcohol marker. This way, I didn't have to worry about, I didn't want to cut on the line because a lot of times, especially with images that are that little, it just doesn't work the greatest. And so it was just easier to do it this way. You know, I was trying to save my patience. Yeah. I did stamp, of course, that string on the black, the same black heavyweight cardstock or watercolor cardstock, and then the white embossing powder. And so you see how my little spiders are going to be talking from one web to the other, right? Yeah. See? It's fun. I also needed to add some gold, so I brought in some gold Spectrum Newer glitter pen or Wink Stella, one or the other. I have a gold one. So I put the gold band on the little hat. And then for my sentiment for this one, I'm bringing in the Spooktacular stamp set from Fawn. It's new to me. It's an old set, but I've been wanting it forever. So I finally put that one on my list and picked that one up. So I'm using the sentiment from that one. I'm going to be stamping on some vellum here with some with some StazOn, I think it's cloudy white. So you saw me re-ink the pad. It's the, it's kind of how the StazOn works, especially for that white one. If you want it to show up good, just re-ink it, and it works well. It's my favorite white without having to emboss. I hope that makes sense. I do make sure that I clean my stamp well afterwards. I just used the Ranger stamp cleaner on this one. I didn't use the StazOn stamp cleaner, and it came off just fine. So don't feel that you need to use that solvent one on there. I've heard that that solvent cleaner is worse on your stamps than the actual solvent ink. So keep that in mind, especially for your photopolymer ones. So I just hand cut this one out because I don't have a coordinating die for it. And I was trying to be very careful not to touch it because it wasn't all the way dry yet. This is like some vellum that's, I don't know, it's like coated vellum. I did run that through my Xyron sticker maker thing. I've been using it some more lately. I redid my office area and it's readily available. So I see it more. Yeah, it was still a little wet here. I'm like, it's still wet. But I was, trying to finish everything up. So I was like, well, I did end up heating it with the little heat tool one more time to like dry up the rest of it. So I could bring in my A2 Modern Emboss stack from Trinity Stamps so I can run that through the die cut machine. I did cut it big. I wanted to make sure that I had enough wiggle room. So if I didn't like one area, I could maybe, or if I didn't stamp it exactly where I wanted. This way it gives you just a little bit of wiggle room. And of course, cutting it with that die, make sure this is going to fit on my A2 card front perfectly. And, I didn't cut crooked that way. Yeah, I have crookeditis, I think. So now it's just a matter of laying my pieces onto my card front here. So I did decide that I wanted to pop up those little spider dudes, or dudettes. I guess in this case they're more dudette than dudes. Because this is Kate and me, so one web to the other. Granted, her web is all the way in Canada, so it's really far away. And I'm here, so, yeah. Obviously, in Snowville, it's not really snowy right now. It's really foggy in Minnesota. But ultimately, yeah. So the placement of the web being the white one as close, and then the other ones further back in the background. It's kind of the idea. And then, of course, the little candy corn string phone lines connecting the two. And then I brought in the white gel pen here just to kind of add some highlights and make them pop off the page just a little bit so you see them a little bit easier. And then I did go over my white string there because it was kind of janky after heat setting it, excuse me. And then, of course, I just popped on my little sticker, "You're a fantastic friend." And then I decided it needed something yet. So I decided to bring in the Hocus Pocus Jewel Mix from Trinity, or not Jewel, I guess it's Confetti Mix from Trinity Stamps. Yes, Trinity Stamps. I love their flat back confetti mixes. I might own more than I need. Yeah, you know, as you have. So I start with 3, usually on the top and the bottom, and then I just kind of keep adding until I think I'm good. Yeah, it's, I was like, oh yeah, 2 purple and 1 orange on top, and then 2 orange and 1 purple on the bottom. That's 3 and 3, right? And then I decided I didn't like the 1 lone purple on the bottom and the 1 lone purple or orange on the top, and so then I had to add 2 more of each. I had to add 3 more, 2 more of each, 2 more of the one color and 1 more of the other color. So once I am content with my embellishments on there, and then I think like 3 little sparkly stars stuck to my container, so I just added those onto my web as well, instead of putting them back in the container. Yeah. And there completes my card for you. So the project is a project for a friend, a crafty friend. So Kate is my crafty Canadian friend. Kate from Kate's Craft, if you watch her on YouTube. And so you're a fantastic friend. And then, of course, it was beautiful paper was the color inspiration. So you have that jewel tones and, of course, the sparkle, because, yes. And the black, the deep stuff, because that's where my mood goes. I like deep, dark colors. And then, of course, the Belle is the little phone from, the Belle telephone from one spider to the next, connecting us. And then the gold on the little spider hat. And then, of course, there's also the gold in that yellow spray as well. So there is my completed project today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Go check out Craft Roulette with Mary Gunn and all of the rest of the Roulette-ers, I guess. Have an amazing rest of your day. Happy New Year. Bye.